This video is not coming to you from the cloud. It is not coming from a satellite. Right now, these words are traveling through a wire, lying in total darkness at the bottom of the ocean. 99% of everything that crosses the internet between continents, your messages, your money, your maps, moves through cables on the seabed. There is no backup sky. There is only the wire. And here is the problem. Somewhere in the world, those wires keep getting cut. Not once, not twice, again and again and again. This is the story of the most important infrastructure on Earth, and why nobody can protect it. So what does the backbone of civilization actually look like? In the deep ocean, it is a wire about as thick as a garden hose, thinner than your wrist. Inside, strands of glass carry light, and on that light rides everything. Stock markets, hospitals, militaries, this video. Stretch all of those cables end to end, and they would run roughly 1.7 million kilometers, enough to wrap around the Earth more than 40 times. And this thin glass thread breaks constantly. There are between 150 and 200 cable faults every single year. That is 3 or 4 every week. Here is the detail that matters. About 80% of them are genuine accidents, a fishing net, a dropped anchor, an earthquake. Remember that number, because if breaking a cable usually looks like an accident, then an accident is the perfect disguise. December 25th, 2024. The Baltic Sea. An oil tanker called the Eagle S, linked to Russia's Shadow Fleet, drags its anchor across the seabed for over 90 kilometers. 6 hours, 5 cables severed, including a power line between Finland and Estonia. In 2 years, at least 11 cables have been damaged in the Baltic alone. Now the Red Sea, February 2024. A cargo ship, the Rubimar, is hit by a missile and abandoned. As the wreck drifts, its anchor slices through 3 of the main cables linking Asia to Europe. Internet access degrades across East Africa, South Asia and the Gulf. And then, Taiwan, February 2025. A ship called the Hongtai lingers over a cable for 3 days, then drops anchor exactly on top of it. Taiwan's Coast Guard boards the ship. Its captain becomes one of the first people ever convicted of deliberately cutting a cable. Taiwan's government says these cuts may be rehearsal, preparation for cutting the island off in a future blockade. China denies it and calls it an accident. And that is the genius of this weapon. Baltic, Red Sea, Taiwan. 3 seas, 1 method. An anchor dragged across the bottom of the ocean. Every attack dressed as an accident. Ships were caught. Crews were detained. So why does this keep happening? 2 reasons. First, the law cannot see the difference. In court, a deliberate anchor drag and a careless one look identical. When Finland prosecuted the officers of the Eagle S, the case was dismissed. The court ruled it had no jurisdiction because the damage happened in international waters. Second, and stranger, think about who actually owns these wires. Not governments. The modern cables belong to Google, Meta, Amazon and Microsoft. Big tech now controls roughly 3/4 of the bandwidth crossing the world's oceans. Google alone has invested in more than 30 cables. But a tech company cannot send a navy. And the navies that could patrol the oceans do not own the wires. Private wires, public seas, no defender. The most valuable network in history sits at the bottom of the ocean. Legally, almost nobody's job to protect. So you cannot stop the cuts. Fine. Can you at least fix them? Here is the number nobody talks about. The entire planet, every cable, every continent is kept alive by fewer than 60 cable repair ships. That is it. The fleet is aging. The average ship is about 20 years old. and roughly a quarter are over 40. A new one costs on the order of $100 million, so almost nobody builds them. And in Asia, one of the biggest repair operators is a company called SB Submarine Systems, controlled by the Chinese state. It repairs cables owned by American companies. Google's cables, Meta's cables. Researchers have found its ships going dark, switching off their tracking signals near Taiwan and Indonesia with no explanation. Follow the logic to the end. You do not need to invade anyone. Cut the wires with an anchor. Call it an accident, and then let the repairs simply take their time. Step back and see the whole picture. The internet is not in the sky. It is a thumb-thick thread of glass lying on the ocean floor. It breaks 200 times a year, and most of those breaks are real accidents, which means the fake ones are invisible. Its owners are private companies with no navies. Its waters belong to no one. And when it snaps, the world waits for a handful of aging ships, some of them controlled by the very state suspected of cutting the wires. This is not a flaw in the system. This is the system. The vulnerability was built in from the start, and every power on Earth can see it. The war for the internet will not begin with an explosion you can point to. It has already begun, quietly at the bottom of the sea, one anchor at a time. And it was designed so that you could never prove it.